And we'll be beginning our class today on our back with yoga blocks nearby. Of course, options are to stretch out Shavasana style or bend your knees and just keep your feet on your mat. Let's do this. Maybe just keep your arms beside you for now and see if you can get a sense for what position the shoulder blades are resting in when you do that. So we're going to do some things today with just a single arm so that we can really focus on one side at a time. So often, I'm guilty of this, we do two things at once and we work on moving the shoulder blades together. And that doesn't always give us the clearest picture of how things are functioning. So as we move into this practice, we'll isolate one at a time and just make non-judgmental comparisons about how the shoulder blades are moving and stabilizing. First, let's just breathe. That low, wide, inviting breath. Excuse me. Now let's keep the left arm where it is and just start to glide the right arm straight out to the side into about 90 degrees of abduction. And you can keep your palm facing the ceiling. And just get a feel for how the scapula probably didn't move a whole lot here, but the bottom tip, the bottom corner, might have moved away from the center of the spine just a little bit. Let's go a few more degrees without going all the way overhead. Just bring your right arm on a diagonal line from your shoulder. You might sense the stretch factor on the back of the shoulder, the lats. And here maybe you can really get a feel for how the shoulder blade is moving more now. It has glided both slightly upward into elevation, but mostly it's rotating upwardly. So that just means the bottom tip is moving further out away from the spine, and the top inner corner has dipped down. The top outer corner has also lifted up. So you've got this triangular-like shape, downward pointing triangle that's now slightly spinning on an imaginary axis right in the center of your shoulder blade. Now let's move that right arm as far overhead as we can, and it doesn't matter so much how you're holding your hand. It could be palm up. You could rotate so that your palm is facing open to the left, kind of like how we reach the arms in Tadasana. And here we want to get a feel for any compensations in the ribs or the spine. I've got just a little bit of spine extension happening now because my shoulder is just not quite ready for an overhead reach. So we're just noticing those things. They're not bad. Shoulder blades and spine work together to help us move. Start to bend your elbow. Hover your arm just enough off the ground that you can do a air pull-up motion. So just starting to glide that arm down beside you. It doesn't have to go down all the way beside you. You're just kind of pulling the elbow just below the height of the shoulder. And then reach back overhead. Just hovering that arm. Maybe even sliding it. If you're on a slidey surface, you could slide it too. Then do a few more pulls. Adding in a little internal resistance to this movement so that you can Really connect to the muscles that might be helping to create this particular energy. Let's just do 2 more on this side. Because you're laying on the ground, you might be feeling that scapula slide around a little bit. Last one. With the right hand, just kind of lay it across the belly or the pelvis so your upper arm is supported on the floor and your right arm can rest. And then we'll take the left arm out to the side, even with the shoulder joint. Palm can face up. In your mind, visualizing just a slight upward rotation of shoulder blade. Always coming back to the breath, noticing the expansion, and following that exhale slowly out of your body. Let's move the left arm to the diagonal reach. A little bit more stretch now on those lats potentially. Or even the front of the shoulder, you might start to feel a lengthening sensation through the front delts. And then this straight overhead reach as far as you can go. Noticing how the back might arch just slightly. Especially in your front rib cage. A little bit of a flare. Notice if there's any changes to the neck too. I just noticed that my head was tipping back quite a bit. So maybe tuck the chin slightly if that's also happening to you. And then let's do 5 of those imaginary pull-ups. If you can slide, slide. Otherwise, hover the arm just enough to draw the elbow down a little ways below the shoulder. Bend the elbow. And then re-reach. Trying to get a little longer as you reach that arm overhead. And just kind of notice if the mechanics feel the same. This one feels a lot different for me. It feels like there's a little bit of aberrant movement here, like I'm feeling something unusual. It's definitely not painful, but it just doesn't move quite the same as my right arm. Now, maybe my right arm is the one with the issue, and this is normal. I don't know, and I can't tell. It's okay. Let's do 1 more pull. I feel a lot more movement in this left shoulder blade. Almost like a clunk as I pull down. Okay, both hands to the belly now. And then as you leave your hands just kind of resting here, upper arms are going to rest on the mat. I want you to think of pulling the front shoulder head towards the ceiling. It's almost going to feel like it does when you're doing cat pose in the front body. So you're just trying to barely peel off the back of the shoulder joint off the mat while you keep your scapula grounded. Front of the shoulders contracting slightly, even into those chest muscles. And then lay that back down and let the front body expand across collarbones, widen across the front tips of the shoulders. We're going to do that 2 more times and see if you can feel how the scapula can move just a tiny bit here, even though you're not actually lifting up much. It's more of a pivot forward. Relax. And 2 more. Roll the shoulder heads forward in space and relax. Peel them back down. Last one. Try to expand the upper edges, the upper inner edges of your scapula away from each other. And then relax. Right arm's going to go straight to the ceiling now. Rather than overhead, we're just reaching 90 degrees forward in space. And then inhale, open your right arm to the side. And exhale, cross that right arm out in front of you without lifting your shoulder. So it's just pure adduction and abduction. 4 more times. Inhale, open. Exhale, cross body reach, kind of like you would to start an eagle pose. Last 3. When the arm goes outward, that shoulder blade neutralizes and maybe comes in a little bit. And when you reach your arms across you, that right arm across you, maybe you can get a sense for that shoulder blade drawing open towards the outer border of the ribs. This is going to be our last one on this side. And then just do 5 on the other side, same thing. Left arm out like a wing, straight out from shoulder. That's an inhale breath. With a straight arm, reach across you towards your right and feel your shoulder blade abduct or protract. Last couple here. And then you can reach both arms straight up towards the ceiling, right above your shoulders or right above your chest, maybe just slightly wider than the chest though. And we've done this one before. It's just an alternating reach, reaching for the ceiling with one arm a little higher, and then relax and reach. Alternating here, maybe with just a little bit more moderate tempo. Lifting, lowering, and lifting and lowering. Can you get a sense for which side is moving better or if they're about the same? Now here I sense my right arm can really go quite a bit further, which surprises me. I thought it would be the other way around. If you're feeling anything in your neck, let your head turn away from the arm that's reaching rather than keeping it strict. Last 2 each side. And then let's get one of those yoga blocks. I'm going to start it in the right palm. So you're going to need to extend your wrist as best you can. Push that block straight up over the shoulder and take your left hand across your rib cage. You're going to take your arm overhead. Try to balance the block so it's level to the horizon, and then sweep your arm out to the side and then down towards your heel. And then out, straight up overhead, and then push and extend your wrist so it's kind of like a plank position, back to that starting spot. Let's do a few more. Reach overhead, maybe a little wider, especially if you're feeling crowded around your neck. Spin the block out, hover it beside your hip, and if this additional weight just feels like it's too much, if you have a heavy block like I do, then you don't have to use the block at all. You could just do it body weight only. Or minimize the amount of movement. Make it a smaller pattern. This is our last one, out. And resetting. And then we'll do the same thing with the left arm. I don't know if I've given myself enough room here. I gotta readjust. See if you can do this movement without grasping the block with the fingertips. Probably should have said that earlier, but no harm if you were grasping it. It just makes it a little bit more challenging for the brain to balance the block without holding it with the fingertips. So it's more of a proprioception practice. Think about reaching that block as far away from you as you can in all directions. Last one. Now let's do both blocks if you have two. If you don't have two, you could just do no blocks. Or you could alternate. So first we're gonna just simulate a push-up. So balancing the blocks, and we're gonna simulate kind of a wide elbow push-up for this one. So you're gonna pull the blocks apart a little bit, bend your elbows until your upper arms tap on the ground, and then push straight back up. When you push straight back up, keep your hands apart. Let's do that a few more times. Notice as you move these blocks, does one arm tend to move a little faster than the other? Is one a little more stable? Like, take a look at your blocks and see if one of them is wobbling more than the other. That could just be like a dominant arm situation, or it could be something happening in the shoulder itself. Last two like this. Let's push the blocks towards the ceiling as if we're holding a plank upside down, and then start to spin the fingertips outward away from each other, bringing the kind of inner wrists facing each other. So you're moving through external shoulder rotation, and then go the other way. Turn your fingertips towards one another for internal rotation. Keep going, spinning those blocks. Once again, noticing the rate of movement. Is it possible to get them a little bit more symmetrical? That's more about training the brain, the motor pattern. I'm kind of rewriting things. We're going to do two more of these spins. Let's give the wrist just a little bit of a break before we do the last one. Any kind of a stretch or mobilization. Okay, one more set with the blocks on our backs. Coming back to the pushing the block to the ceiling, right up over the shoulders. And then we're going to take both shoulders for a ride, reaching overhead, leveling out the blocks, so straighten the wrists. Hover your arms off the ground and take them out to that T shape, and then all the way down by the hip. And then reverse. Like, almost feels like a snow angel until you bring your arms up, and then it feels like plank. Let's do a few more, just maybe 2 to 3. If you're moving super slow, you might only get 2 more reps in. I'm always tending towards quality movement over more repetition, but there's nothing wrong with doing more reps a little bit quicker. Whew. These cork blocks make things interesting. Notice that the back ribs are trying to peel away from the floor, those bottom ones. Try to press down there, not necessarily the low back, just the rib cage. This is going to be our last one. Out, and then press. Release blocks off to the side. Might be using them a little bit later. And let's roll to one side, doesn't matter which way. We're going to practice a variation of a shoulder controlled articular rotation. So you just want to get your neck comfortable, whether it's to lay your bottom arm under it, or you could even use a block or a blanket here. That top arm is just resting on the hip, but we want to get it really strong, maybe even making a fist. Try to turn your thumb up so your bicep is rolling towards the ceiling. And then you're going to go forward with that arm and then up overhead. Internally rotate your shoulder and take it behind you. And then when you bring your arm by your hip, the back of the hand should be facing your body. Knuckles reaching to the heel. Now reverse it. Keeping that internal rotation until you max out, and then externally rotate to go in that overhead range. Let's do a handful more, maybe less than a handful. You could increase the speed a little bit, but what we're going to do is really add in that resistance. Oh, we lost Joan. Hopefully it's not because of a technical problem on my end. She probably would have let me know. Complete 2 more, progressively adding resistance from inside your body, maybe even buttoning up those front low ribs a little bit more, pressing the legs together and down. Last one complete. Take a little rest and switch sides. Make sure the neck is happy and not overly tucked or flexed. Make a fist, thumb side of the hands trying to turn away from you, palm open, and then reach that bicep forward, overhead, turn inward. Oh shit, there goes my plant. And then go backwards. Having all sorts of prop difficulties today. So sorry. It's usually toughy knocking over the plant. Total of 4 to 5. Did I actually curse or did that just happen in my mind? Remember, we're staying in pain-free ranges here. So if you're tapping into some tissues that are really restrictive and you're feeling discomfort in the joint, try to skip those areas and just work a smaller circle. Bypass them. It's always the case. Pain-free. Even if it's tiny. Tiny range. Maybe just one more. Good. Let's come on up to the tabletop. I'm going to go this way. And let's go asymmetric tabletop. Right hand on a block. So the right scapula is in a much different position than the left. And then we're going to actually do our scapular push-ups in this asymmetrical foundation. So your right shoulder will probably be moving quite a bit more. The left one won't get as deep into retraction. It might get a little bit more in protraction. Last 3, 2, and 1. Other side. I like a little wider than shoulders in terms of the width of the stance. Retract, protract. Neck stays in a neutral line, almost as if you're trying to tuck your chin just a tiny bit. Same thing with the ribs. Keeping the back bend out of it here. Final 4. 3. Last 2. Last 1. Block can go under the hips to sit back into kneeling. Offloading the wrists, rotating them, or just stretching them in flexion. And then you can either stay here in this little seated kneeling pose with your bum down, or you could come up and squeeze on that block and come to tall kneeling. That might give you just a little more stability. We're going to do double arm cars here, letting the shoulder blade move as much as it wants. Spin the biceps open as the arms come out in front. just crisscross. Punch the ceiling. Turn the arms in and behind, down by the hip. Lead with your thumb side now. Reach back. External rotation, all the way up and across. 2 more like that. Thumbs point back. And then thumbs are up. Forward and up and back. Last one. And then let's try a down dog, see how our shoulders feel. As the arms go overhead, of course, both shoulder blades are upwardly rotating. The bottom tip of that imaginary triangle is moving outward and upward. The top inner corner starts to point down a little bit. Step your right foot through, bring your left knee on your mat. Half kneeling position. Both arms are going to come out front here. And we're going to keep the chest mostly facing forward, but let it twist when we pull the arm back. So it's just like our bowstring pulls. We're going to go alternating sides. So there's an open twist to your left as you pull the left arm. And then a closed twist to the right as you pull the right arm. Don't even have to straighten the elbow at this point. We're just going to kind of get into that pulling action like you've got a rubber band, one of those resistance bands. Resistance bands getting thicker and thicker every repetition. Scissor the legs together. Notice there's a little rib stretch too at the end range of that rotation. Last one each side. Pull and turn. Pull and turn. Let's pause wherever we are. Engage the legs and the glutes here, especially on the left leg glutes. Front heel trying to draw back. Back knee trying to slide forward. And then let's go the other way for the hold. Come back to downward dog. Slightly shortening your stance, which might mean the knees need to bend and the heels might need to lift. Now, without bringing the left hand closer to your midline, just push more into it and try to take away the right hand, or at least lift the fingertips. That right hand can just hover barely off the ground. Now set your right hand down where you would normally have it for your down dog. Try to push a lot more through the left foot and take away the left hand. Pushing into that left foot's going to help redistribute the weight from the left side. Beautiful. Take a little break, drop the knees. I'm going to try that one more time with a narrower stance with the arms. Just changing the responsibilities a little bit for the shoulder. So on this down dog, instead of having the arms shoulders width, maybe slightly inside that frame. So thumbs a little closer together. Pull your hips back and up. Push a lot through the left hand and the right foot. And can we take away the right hand? Switch sides. Narrow grip on those hands. This is actually, I think, a little easier to balance. 2 more breaths. And then release to tabletop. Sit back kneeling. Stretch the wrists. And then down dog, left leg's going to step forward. Right knee down. Half kneeling. Arms out front. Alternating rows, upper body twisting. As the hips and legs stabilize, you can feel some length through the spine vertically, and notice how pulling can help give us a little bit more in that twist. When the arm draws back, shoulder blade hugs into the spine. When the arm reaches forward, it pulls away from the spine. Last two on each side. Wherever you land on this last one, let's go for that longer hold, generating more power from below for more mobility. That was a tongue twister. Above. Keep those shoulders down as you pull, though, with the arms at shoulder height here. Shoulders kind of like to hike sometimes when we pull. Let's switch sides. And as you release that twist, step yourself forward to a soft forward fold. Clasp your hands around your elbows, let your head hang in the frame of your arms, and feel like your arms are heavy and kind of reaching towards your toes. So the scapula are sliding towards the ears into elevation. Similar thing happens when we're in mountain pose and we raise the arms. That's the bone rhythm. Bend your knees a little bit. You can roll up slow segmentally or come up through a hinge, doing anything you want with your arms. Right fingertips are going to come to that right shoulder. The left arm's just going to rest. We're going to cross the body first, trying to bring that right elbow towards the left side chest, and then up, around, behind. Two more in this direction. Cross, lift, open, and reach. And then let's go back first. Back and out and up and over. Two more. Let's go the other way. Right arm resting. Left elbow starts out straight from the side. Cross out in front of you. Raise that arm up. Out. Behind. Two more loops. Reverse. Might notice some little clicks and clacks in there. Not a bad thing unless it's uncomfortable, painful. Once you complete that last cycle, let's just hold Tadasana pose with externally rotated shoulders. As you raise the arms, sense the shoulder blades pivoting into that upward rotation. And then as you fold, take your arms out and down. Relax your head. Inhale to a halfway position, fingers to shins perhaps. And then refold, get your hands where you want them for your plank and step back. Thinking of pushing down and forward with the hands, but also corkscrewing the arms into external shoulder rotation. Biceps trying to wrap towards the front of the room, same directions as the hand. And they won't get there, that's just the energetics. They might get there, depending. Pull your plank to the floor. You can use your knees. Roll your shoulders onto your back. Light touch on the hands. Peel your chest forward, baby cobra. All the way down. Tuck toes. Press back. Tabletop. Cat and cow without moving the shoulder blades too much. So let's just get the spine moving first. Shoulder blades really want to help with that thoracic extension and flexion. So try to keep them fairly stable, slightly protracted the whole time, as if you're trying to pull your thumbs together. That'll help keep them apart. It also might feel like your spine isn't moving as much if you're minimizing shoulder blade gliding. Now in the next several, we'll invite the shoulder blades to squeeze together. At the very last moment in the cow pose, hug towards the spine and hold. Now here we're going to keep the shoulder blades drawing in, but neutralize the spine. So you can think about pulling your arms apart, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Now round out your back, and at the very end of the movement, once you feel like you can't go any further in your spine, then really push your shoulder blades apart, create a big gap between them. Try to keep the shoulder blades apart. They might have to come a little bit together, but let's see if we can find that neutral spine again without changing the scapular position. Ooh, that's a tricky one. Keep those shoulder blades apart as much as you can. Retuck your toes, stretch back, downward dog. Inhale the right leg high. Breathe in. And then exhale, step through. You can build up a high lunge or a warrior one pose. What position do your arms want to be in? Just get a sense for where you might think your shoulder blades are placed, depending on your arm position. One more breath. And as we send our left foot forward to chair pose, let's take the arms behind us without diving forward. So it's all extension in the shoulders rather than flexion in the spine. Stay up nice and tall. One more breath. Inhale, rise and reach. And then take it through your fold. Bring it up about halfway. Step back to plank and hold the plank. Retract shoulder blades with straight arms, and then draw them apart. 3 more. Downward dog. And then you might try, if that was really pretty comfortable for you and accessible for you, you might try to move the shoulder blades into elevation and depression once you get into your down dog. From down dog, lift your left leg on and inhale, and step it up. Crescent or warrior one. Once again, choosing an arm variation and just paying attention to what's happening on the back side of the shoulder. Sampling different positions or just holding one that you really enjoy this morning. This time as we step to the chair pose, let's press the forearms together. Might challenge your balance a little bit. Elbows up just a tiny bit ahead of the shoulders if possible, but also think of pressing the forearms away from you. Breathing for 3, 2, inhale, stand up, reach the arms. And then find your fold again. Step left leg back, heel toe your right foot out a little bit more, and let's just enjoy a lunge exploration. That could just be holding the position with a little energetic pulling of the legs towards one another. Or you could work into hamstrings, straightening that leg a little or a little bit more. Walk your hands out in front of you just a little bit. Take them nice and wide. Think of dragging your right foot backwards as the left foot steps forward to squat. Last little bit here, let's find that lunge with the left leg out front and the right leg back. Last yogi squat. Feel free to use your blocks as a pedestal. That completes the practice. We're not going to follow up with a Shavasana. I think you've all done Shavasana enough that you could manage that on your own if that is where you're at today. Otherwise, thanks for being here. I'll be back in touch for Saturday's practice. And I'm thinking of the following week, which would be the 28th, I think, doing the 10 o'clock flow class at the park. So I'll be in touch about that as well. Thanks for being here live. And to the rest of you, let me know what you think of this class. Take care.